I, 58F, always believed that family was a fortress. It was a place you built together, brick by brick, with love and sacrifice. My late husband, David, felt the same way. We worked hard our whole lives, not for lavish things, but for security, for peace, for our son, Mark, 32M. When David passed away 5 years ago, the fortress felt empty, but I was determined to keep the walls strong for Mark. He was my world, the last piece of David I had left. I thought his wife, Tiffany, would become a new pillar in that fortress. I wanted her to be the daughter I never had. I welcomed her with an open heart and an open home, hoping she would add her own strength to our foundation. Instead, she arrived with a sledgehammer, smiling the whole time. The early days were filled with small cracks, things I chose to ignore. Tiffany had a taste for things that were far beyond their means. A designer handbag would appear, followed by a strained month where Mark would casually ask if I could help with their electric bill. I always did. I told myself she was young, that she was just excited to be building a life. I would gently mention the importance of saving, of planning for the future. She would smile sweetly and say, "Oh, Sarah, you worry too much." We're living in the now. Mark would just nod along, completely mesmerized by her. He saw her as vibrant and ambitious. I saw a growing void where their savings should have been. When they announced they were expecting, my heart swelled with a joy I hadn't felt since David was alive. A grandchild, a new generation to protect, to love, to build for. This was it. This was the moment that would ground them. This would make them see the importance of the future. David had left a considerable inheritance, and we had decided together, before he died, that a portion would be set aside in a trust for our first grandchild's education. It was not to be touched for any other reason. The account was in my name and Mark's, requiring both of us to be aware of any movements, though technically only one signature was needed for withdrawal. It was a system built on trust, a trust one never imagined my own son would break. The fund contained a little over $100,000, a solid foundation for a college education, a start in life. I sat them down and reminded them about the fund. "This is for the baby," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Your grandfather wanted to make sure his grandchild would have every opportunity." Mark looked emotional, nodding seriously. He understood the gravity of it. Tiffany, however, had a different look in her eye. It was a glint of calculation. "That is so incredibly generous, Sarah," she said, placing a perfectly manicured hand on my arm. "We are so grateful. We'll make sure it's put to good use." Her words were right, but the tone felt wrong. It felt like she was thanking me for a gift she had just received, not acknowledging a legacy for her unborn child. The first major blow came a few weeks later. Tiffany announced she was quitting her job. She worked in marketing, a decent job that contributed significantly to their household income. "The stress is not good for the baby," she declared over dinner. "And besides, my time is better spent building my personal brand as a mother and lifestyle influencer." I nearly choked on my water. A lifestyle influencer. Mark beamed with pride. "Tiffany is amazing at this stuff, Mom. She's already got thousands of followers. She's going to be a star." I looked at their finances, which I had a general sense of from the number of times I'd had to bail them out, and I couldn't see how they could survive on Mark's salary alone, especially with a baby on the way. When I cautiously voiced this concern, Tiffany's smile tightened. "You have to spend money to make money, Sarah," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "It's about creating an aspirational lifestyle. People don't follow broke, boring people." The implication was clear. My sensible, frugal life was boring. My values were outdated. The real betrayal, the one that shattered the fortress completely, happened last month. I was doing my monthly finances, a habit David and I had kept for 40 years. I logged into the joint trust account just to see the interest accumulate. My heart stopped. The balance was wrong. It was drastically wrong. $55,000 was gone. Just gone. A single wire transfer made 2 weeks prior. There was no note, no description, just a transaction number and the name of a holding company I didn't recognize. Panic seized me. Had they been robbed? Was this fraud? My first instinct was to protect, to fix. I called Mark immediately. My hand was trembling as I dialed his number. "Mark, honey, something is wrong with the baby's trust fund," I said, my voice higher than usual. "There's a huge amount missing. We need to call the bank." There was a pause on his end. It was just a second too long. "Oh, that," he said, his voice strangely casual. "Don't worry about that, Mom. It's all taken care of." I felt a cold dread creep up my spine. This wasn't a mistake. Taken care of? What do you mean? What was it for? What did you buy? I asked, my questions tumbling out. "It was an investment, Mom," he said, sounding rehearsed. "Tiffany found a really great opportunity. It's for our future. For the baby's future and investment." It didn't feel right. We had a financial advisor for that. Why would Tiffany, a self-proclaimed lifestyle influencer, be handling a $55,000 investment from a trust fund? "What kind of investment, Mark? Where is the money?" I pressed, needing to understand. "It's complicated," he said, his voice becoming strained. "Look, I have to go.
Tiffany needs me.
We'll talk about it later.
Just trust us, Mom."
"We know what we're doing." He hung up before I could say another word. I sat there, the phone silent in my hand, the dread turning into a sick certainty. He was lying. My son, my wonderful, honest son, was lying to my face. And he was doing it for her. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, the casual dismissal in his tone. The next morning, fueled by coffee and a growing anger, I decided to do some digging. I started with the holding company name from the bank transfer. A quick search online revealed it was a travel agency, one that specialized in ultra-luxury, exclusive vacation packages. My blood ran cold. It wasn't an investment. It was a trip. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I navigated to Tiffany's social media pages. Her feed was a curated wall of perfection. Expensive lunches, new maternity clothes from high-end boutiques, perfectly staged photos of her holding her small baby bump. And then I saw it. A post from a week ago. It was a picture of 2 first-class airline tickets and 2 passports peeking out of a designer bag. The caption read, "Time for a little Babymoon magic before our world changes forever. Surprise trip of a lifetime, courtesy of my amazing husband. He knows how to treat his queen. Hashtag luxury travel, hashtag Babymoon, hashtag blessed." My world tilted on its axis. I scrolled frantically through her posts. The next one was a video. Her, laughing, on a pristine white sand beach, a turquoise ocean behind her. The location tag was a resort in the Maldives. A resort I knew from magazines was one of the most expensive in the world. I felt a wave of nausea. I kept scrolling. There were pictures of them in a private infinity pool, clinking glasses of sparkling cider. A picture of a multi-course meal served by a private chef on their villa's deck. A picture of Tiffany posing in a flowing designer gown for a professional maternity photo shoot on the beach. It was a spectacle of obscene wealth. And then I found the final piece of the puzzle, the one that lit the fuse of my rage. In the comments section of one of her photos, a friend had written, "OMG Tiff, this is insane. That place must have cost a fortune." Tiffany's reply was smug and self-satisfied. "Only the best for our little one's first trip." It was about $55K for the package, but it's a priceless experience. You have to invest in memories. $55,000. The exact amount. My grandchild's education, my late husband's legacy, had been turned into a priceless experience for her Instagram feed. It was not an investment in memories. It was theft. And she was bragging about it to the world. That was the moment the hurt curdled into something else. Something cold and hard and clear. I was no longer just a grieving widow or a concerned mother. I was a woman who had been pushed too far. The fortress had been breached, but I was going to rebuild it, and this time, the walls would be made of stone. And Tiffany was going to find out just how sharp those stones could be. I closed the laptop, my mind racing. I needed to confirm everything, to have undeniable proof before I confronted them again. The lie about an investment was so blatant, so insulting. It showed they had no respect for me, for my intelligence, or for David's memory. This wasn't just a youthful indiscretion. This was a calculated act of greed and deception. I pulled up the resort's website. It was as opulent as Tiffany's photos suggested. Private overwater villas, personal butlers, underwater restaurants. I found the Babymoon experience package she must have booked. The description made my stomach turn. It included everything I saw in her pictures. The private chef, the yacht excursion, the maternity goddess photo shoot with a celebrity photographer. And there, at the bottom of the page, was the price. $55,000. It was all there in black and white. My first call was to my best friend, Carol. She was also a mother-in-law and the unofficial president of our small, informal support group. We met for coffee once a month, a collection of women navigating the often treacherous waters of in-law relationships. Carol had her own stories about her daughter-in-law, a woman who treated Carol's son like an ATM and Carol like an unpaid babysitter.
She would understand.
Carol, I need to talk to you, I said, my voice shaking slightly. It's about Mark and Tiffany. We met at our usual cafe. I laid out the whole story, from the missing money to the social media posts to the resort's website. I watched her face shift from sympathy to righteous indignation. Oh, Sarah, she said, reaching across the table to grab my hand. That's not just irresponsible. That is downright cruel. To take money meant for a child's future and spend it on a vacation, and then to lie about it. That felt good. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. He said it was an investment, Carol. I whispered, the words tasting like ash. An investment in their future, Carol snorted. The only future she's investing in is her own, as some kind of online celebrity. She's using your son, and she's using her husband's legacy as props for her little show. Her validation was like a bomb on a raw wound. It cleared my head and allowed the anger to sharpen into resolve. What do I do? Asked her. If I confront them, they'll just lie more. Mark will defend her. They'll paint me as the villain, the controlling mother-in-law who doesn't want them to be happy. Then you don't confront them in a way they can control, Carol said, her eyes gleaming with a strategic light I knew well. She was a retired school principal and had dealt with her fair share of manipulative behavior. You need leverage. You need something they can't twist or deny. You need to take away their power, which, for Tiffany, is her public image. We talked for over an hour, brainstorming. The initial ideas were small. Sending an anonymous tip to a gossip blog. Contacting the brands she was trying to partner with. But none of it felt right. It was too petty, too indirect. I needed to face them. I needed them to see my face when their perfect, curated world came crashing down. I went home with a new sense of purpose. I spent the next few days gathering my ammunition. I took screenshots of every single one of Tiffany's posts about the trip. I saved the comments where she bragged about the cost. I printed the bank statement showing the wire transfer. I printed the page from the resort's website detailing the $55,000 package. I put it all in a neat folder, a dossier of their deceit. Each piece of paper felt like a stone I was adding to my side of the scale, balancing out the weight of their betrayal. While I was doing this, I decided to call Mark again. I wanted to give him one last chance to tell me the truth. Just a sliver of honesty. I kept my tone calm and neutral. Mark, I've been thinking about our conversation. I started. I'm worried about this investment. I'd feel much better if you could just tell me the name of the company or give me some paperwork. It's a lot of money, and I feel responsible, he sighed, a long, weary sound. Mom, please drop this. Tiffany is a genius with this stuff. It's some kind of influencer marketing fund. It's very exclusive. There isn't any paperwork I can show you. The lie was even more elaborate this time. An influencer marketing fund. It was so ridiculous, it was almost insulting. So, you gave $55,000 of your child's education money to an influencer marketing fund with no paperwork? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Yes, he said, his tone defensive. It's going to pay off big time. You'll see. You just need to have a little faith in us. I felt the last bit of hope for a simple resolution die.
He was in too deep.
He had chosen his side. Okay, Mark, I said softly. I hope you're right. I hung up the phone. He had made his choice. Now I would make mine. The plan started to form in my mind that night, a wild, audacious idea that made my heart beat faster. Tiffany's power was her image. Her stage was social media. Her currency was the envy and admiration of others. What if I went to the source? What if I showed up on her stage, not as a background character, but as the main event? I went back to the resort's website. I scrolled past the Babymoon packages and the romantic getaways. And then I saw it. A section for group retreats, corporate wellness, yoga and meditation, and one called Serenity and Sisterhood, a women's empowerment retreat. It was designed for groups of 4 to 6 women. It included spa treatments, group dinners, and workshops on mindfulness and setting boundaries. The irony was so perfect it made me laugh out loud in my empty house. A workshop on setting boundaries. I immediately called Carol. I have an idea, I said, a thrill in my voice. It's crazy, but I think it's perfect. I laid it all out for her. She was silent for a moment, and I worried I had gone too far. Then, she let out a whoop of laughter. Sarah, you are a genius. A deliciously evil genius. I'm in. Of course, I'm in. We decided to call the other women from our group. Susan, whose son had secretly co-signed a lease for his girlfriend's luxury car without telling his wife. Brenda, whose daughter-in-law borrowed family heirlooms and then sold them on eBay. Linda, whose son's wife insisted on calling her by her first name because mom was too possessive and patriarchal. They were all women who had been made to feel small, dismissed, and disrespected. I called an emergency meeting of the Disrespected Mother-in-Law Support Group, as we jokingly called it. We met at my house that evening. I had my folder of evidence laid out on the coffee table. I told them the entire story, my voice steady and clear. When I finished, the room was silent. Then Linda, who was usually the quietest of the group, spoke up. She used her baby's college fund for a photo shoot, she asked, her voice filled with disbelief. And he let her? I just nodded. Brenda slammed her hand on the table. That's it. That's the last straw. We have to do something. For Sarah, and for all of us. I have a plan, I said, and I told them about the resort, the Serenity and Sisterhood retreat package. I told them Tiffany and Mark were still there for another week. We could be there by the weekend, I said, my heart pounding. We book the package. We fly first class just like they did. We show up. We don't have to be loud or cause a scene. We just have to be there. Our presence will be enough to unravel her entire fantasy. For a moment, they all stared at me. Then, a slow smile spread across Susan's face. Oh, I like it, she said. I like it a lot. We'll be your mother-in-law entourage. A wall of quiet, smiling, disappointed mothers. The cost of the trip was significant, but divided among the 5 of us, it was manageable. And it wasn't about the money. It was about the principle. We were taking back our power, using our own hard-earned money to do it. We spent the next hour online, booking flights and the retreat package. We booked it under my maiden name just in case. As I entered my credit card information, a wave of calm washed over me. The decision was made. The plan was in motion. For weeks, I had felt powerless. Now I was in control. Tiffany wanted to be an influencer. Well, I was about to influence her life in a way she would never forget. The days leading up to our departure were a blur of coordinated activity. We had a group chat that buzzed constantly with logistics and, more importantly, moral support. Brenda, who is a retired travel agent, handled the finer details of our booking, ensuring we had adjoining rooms and confirming our spa appointments. Susan, a former fashion buyer, took charge of our uniform. We need to look impeccable, she declared. Not flashy like her. Just elegant, confident, and completely unbothered. Think old money, not new money, we all agreed. We would not stoop to her level of ostentatious display. Our power would come from our composure. I had one more conversation with Tiffany before we left. It was a calculated move, designed to set the stage. I called her under the pretense of checking in on her and the baby. Hello, Sarah, she answered, her voice syrupy sweet, the kind she used when she knew she was getting away with something. We are having the most incredible time. It's so peaceful here. It looks wonderful, dear, I said, keeping my tone light and cheerful. I was just looking at the resort's website. It seems like a very popular place. So many different people must go there. There was a slight pause. Well, it's very exclusive, she said, a hint of her usual snobbery creeping in. You have to be someone to even get a reservation. It's mostly for young, successful people. Influencers, entrepreneurs. You know, oh, I see, I said, letting the bait hang in the air. So, it's not really a place for, say, a group of older women to go and relax? Her laugh was brittle. Oh, goodness, no. I can't imagine that at all. They would stick out like a sore thumb. It's a very vibrant, youthful atmosphere. That was all I needed. I had given her the rope, and she had eagerly fashioned her own noose. Well, you two enjoy the rest of your vibrant, youthful trip, I said. We'll talk when you get back. We will, she chirped, completely oblivious. I hung up the phone with a grim smile. The trap was set. The flight to the Maldives was long, but it felt different from any trip I had ever taken. It wasn't a vacation. It was a mission. The five of us sat together, sipping champagne and finalizing our strategy. We weren't going to be aggressive. We wouldn't yell or cause a scene. Our plan was one of psychological warfare, fought with smiles and pointed questions. We would simply exist in her space, a constant, elegant reminder of the truth she was trying to hide. Our presence would be the crack in her perfect, filtered fantasy. We landed and were whisked away by a private seaplane to the remote atoll where the resort was located. As we flew over the impossibly blue water and the string of overwater bungalows, I felt a strange sense of detachment. This place, this symbol of her betrayal, was about to become the stage for her downfall. When we arrived at the resort, we were greeted with cool towels and hibiscus tea. The staff was incredibly discreet and professional. As we were being checked in, I asked the concierge, in a casual tone, "We're here for a women's retreat. I believe my son and his wife are also guests here. Mark and Tiffany. Have you seen them?" The concierge smiled politely. "Yes, madam. They're staying in one of our grand water villas. I believe they are at the Sunset Pool at the moment." Perfect. The Sunset Pool was the resort's main social hub, the place everyone went to see and be seen. It was where Tiffany would be holding court. We were led to our rooms to freshen up. We had agreed on our first outfits, simple, elegant linen dresses in shades of white and beige. We looked like a page out of a coastal living magazine. We were calm, we were unified, and we were ready. We walked towards the Sunset Pool as a group. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but I kept my breathing even and my steps measured. Carol gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. "Showtime," she whispered. And then we saw them. They were lounging on a large daybed right by the edge of the infinity pool. Tiffany was wearing a ridiculously expensive-looking bikini and a sheer, flowing cover-up. She had a professional-looking camera set up on a tripod, and Mark was dutifully holding a large reflector to catch the light perfectly on her face. She was posing, one hand on her belly, the other behind her head, a serene, goddess-like expression on her face. She was completely absorbed in her performance. We didn't approach them directly. Instead, we found a lovely shaded cabana a short distance away, but still clearly within their line of sight. We ordered a round of iced teas and sat down, chatting and laughing amongst ourselves as if we were the only people there. It took about 5 minutes for Tiffany to notice us. I watched her out of the corner of my eye. Her smile faltered. She squinted, then her eyes went wide. She grabbed Mark's arm, her perfectly serene expression replaced by one of pure shock. Mark turned and looked at us. His jaw literally dropped. He looked like he had seen a ghost. Or rather, 5 of them. Tiffany scrambled off the daybed and started whispering furiously to Mark. He kept shaking his head, looking back and forth between us and her. The photo shoot was clearly over. She grabbed her cover-up and stormed off in the direction of their villa, Mark trailing helplessly behind her. We just sat there, sipping our iced teas. We didn't wave. We didn't smile in their direction. We just existed. Round 1 was ours. We spent the rest of the afternoon at the spa, as planned. The Serenity and Sisterhood package included aromatherapy massages and hydrating facials. It was wonderfully relaxing. As we were sitting in the quiet room afterwards, wrapped in fluffy robes, Brenda sighed contentedly. You know, she said, even if we hadn't seen the look on her face, this trip would have been worth it. We all murmured in agreement. This trip was about more than just revenge. It was about reclaiming our own peace, about reminding ourselves that we deserved luxury and relaxation too, paid for with our own, honestly earned money. The confrontation I was expecting didn't happen right away. They were avoiding us. We saw them at a distance in the main dining hall that evening. They were seated at a secluded table, and Tiffany had her back to the room. She spent the entire meal staring at her plate. Mark looked miserable. We, on the other hand, had a wonderful dinner. We told stories, we laughed, and we ordered the most expensive dessert on the menu. We were celebrating our solidarity. The next morning, we had a group yoga session on the beach as part of our retreat. As we were stretching and breathing in the fresh sea air, I saw Tiffany walking along the shoreline. She was on the phone, her voice sharp and angry, her gestures frantic. She was clearly in the middle of a heated argument. I had a pretty good idea who she was talking to. She was 100 yards away, but her rage was palpable even from that distance. She was like a storm cloud in paradise. Our yoga instructor gently reminded us to focus on our breath. I took a deep, calming breath. I was perfectly focused. The inevitable finally happened that afternoon. I was reading a book by our private plunge pool when a shadow fell over me. It was Tiffany. She stood there, her arms crossed, her face a mask of fury. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, her voice low and venomous. "This is it. The moment is here." My heart rate picks up, but my voice, when I speak, is calm. I look up from my book. "Hello, Tiffany. I'm on vacation. What are you doing here?" "You know what I mean," she snaps. "Why are you at this resort? Are you following us?" This is harassment. I close my book, marking my page carefully. I am in control now. Harassment? That's a strong word. I say, my tone even. This is the annual retreat for my support group. We found a package deal online. It seemed like a lovely place to unwind. Her eyes narrow. "Your support group?" "What support group?" she asks, her voice dripping with suspicion. "My mother-in-law support group," I say, giving her a small, tight smile. "There are 5 of us. We all felt we needed to get away from the stresses of family life." I can see the words hit her like a physical blow. Her face pales. "You did this on purpose," she whispers. "You're trying to ruin my Babymoon." I stand up, so we are at eye level. "Your Babymoon was already ruined, Tiffany," I say, my voice dropping. "It was ruined the moment you decided to pay for it with money that wasn't yours. Money that was meant for your own child's future." Her face contorts with rage. "You have no right to talk to me about that money. Mark and I made an investment." "It's our money too," she shrieks, her voice rising. "Was it an investment, Tiffany?" I ask softly. I pull out my phone. I open my photo gallery. I show her the screenshot of her own social media comment. The one where she boasts about the $55,000 price tag. Or was it a priceless experience? That's what you called it, isn't it? She stares at the phone, speechless. At that moment, Mark comes running up. He must have seen her storm over.
"Tiff, Mom."
"What's going on?" "Let's not make a scene." He tries to put his arm around Tiffany, but she shoves him away. "Your mother is trying to ruin our lives," she cries, pointing a trembling finger at me. "Mark, I think it's time we had an honest conversation," I say, turning my gaze to my son. He flinches. He looks trapped, his eyes darting between his furious wife and his stone-faced mother. "What's there to talk about?" he says weakly. "It's an investment. We told you." I shake my head slowly. "Stop lying, Mark." The lies stop now. I swipe on my phone and bring up the image of the bank statement. The wire transfer to the luxury travel agency. An investment in the Maldives Travel Corporation? I ask, my voice laced with ice. "I don't think so. This is your child's college fund. And you spent it on a photo opportunity." Mark looks at the statement, and all the color drains from his face. He has nothing left to say. The lie has been completely dismantled. Tiffany, however, is not done fighting. She switches tactics. The rage disappears, replaced by tears. Huge, crocodile tears start streaming down her face. "You're so cruel," she sobs, her voice breaking dramatically. "I just wanted something beautiful for us, for the baby, before our lives changed forever. I've been so stressed and overwhelmed. I thought this would help. And you've turned it into something ugly. You've always been jealous of me. You never thought I was good enough for your son." It's a masterful performance. She's painting herself as the victim, the fragile, pregnant woman being attacked by the evil, jealous mother-in-law. But I am not an audience she can fool. I have seen this act before. I am unmoved. "This has nothing to do with jealousy, Tiffany," I say, my voice hard as steel. "This is about theft. This is about trust. You stole from your own child. And you, Mark," I say, turning to my son, who is trying to comfort his weeping wife. "You let her. You lied for her. You broke a promise you made to your father." The mention of his father makes Mark crumple. He finally looks ashamed.
Mom,
"I'm sorry," he stammers. "It just got out of control. Sorry isn't good enough," I say. "You're going to fix this. Both of you." Tiffany's sobs stop abruptly. She looks up, her eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about consequences," I say, feeling a surge of power. "Here is what is going to happen. You're going to wire every single cent of that $55,000 back into the trust account.
Today.
And you're going to post a public statement on your precious social media page. You will not mention me. You will not mention family conflict. You will talk about how you got carried away with consumerism and how you've realized the importance of financial responsibility and saving for your child's future. You will apologize for promoting a lifestyle that was based on a lie." Tiffany gasps. "I will not. You can't make me. That would destroy my brand. I'll be humiliated," she cries. "You have two choices," I continue, ignoring her outburst. "You can do exactly as I say. Or my friends and I gesture vaguely towards the main building where the other women are, "we'll spend the rest of our vacation telling our story. We'll talk to the other guests. We'll talk to the staff. We will post our own social media story, complete with copies of bank statements and your bragging comments. We will tell the world how the glamorous influencer Tiffany funded her priceless experience by stealing from her unborn baby's education fund. By the time we're done, your brand will be more than destroyed. It will be a case study in what not to do. The choice is yours." I watch them. Tiffany's face is a thunderous mask of hate. Mark looks utterly broken. The silence stretches on, filled only by the gentle lapping of the waves. He knows I'm not bluffing. He knows me. He knows I have reached my limit. He finally looks at Tiffany. "Tiff," he says, his voice barely a whisper. "We have to do it. We have to give the money back." "No," she screams. "It's my money now. We spent it. We will pay it back, Tiffany," Mark says, his voice gaining a sliver of firmness for the first time. "It's over." She stares at him, her eyes wide with betrayal. He has finally, for one brief moment, chosen something other than her. She lets out a strangled sob and runs back to their villa. Mark stands there for a moment, his shoulders slumped in defeat. He looks at me, his eyes pleading. "I'm so sorry, Mom." "I know you are, Mark," I say, my voice softening just a fraction. "But being sorry is an action. Go and fix it." He nods and slowly walks away, following his wife. I stand there, my body trembling with adrenaline. The confrontation is over. The bomb has been detonated. Now, all I can do is wait for the fallout. The rest of that day was quiet. I returned to my friends, who had been watching from a distance, and gave them a brief, triumphant nod. They didn't press for details. They just refilled my iced tea and started a light-hearted conversation about a book one of them was reading. Their quiet support was exactly what I needed. I spent the afternoon in a strange state of limbo, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I kept checking my phone, half expecting an angry call from Mark or a barrage of hateful messages from Tiffany. But there was nothing. Just silence. That evening, the five of us went to one of the resort's finest restaurants for dinner. We were celebrating. We had stood up for ourselves, for each other. We had drawn a line in the sand. As we were finishing our meal, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from my banking app. A wire transfer had been received. $55,000. It was back. All of it. I showed the phone to Carol. A slow, satisfied smile spread across her face.
He did it, she said.
He actually did it. A wave of relief, so profound, washed over me that I felt lightheaded. The money was back. My grandchild's future was secure again. That was the most important thing. The second part of my ultimatum was fulfilled an hour later. Linda, who was the most social media savvy among us, gasped and held up her phone. "You are not going to believe this," she said. She turned the phone around. It was Tiffany's Instagram page. There was a new post. It was a simple, stark text image, black letters on a white background. The caption was long and rambling. It spoke of getting caught up in the pressures of social media and losing sight of what's truly important. It talked about the journey to parenthood and the need for financial transparency and responsibility. It ended with a vague apology for presenting a lifestyle that wasn't entirely sustainable and a promise to be more authentic in the future. There was no mention of the trip, the resort, or the stolen money. But the message was clear to anyone who had been following her recent posts. It was a humiliating, public climb down. "She actually did it," Brenda said, her voice filled with awe. "I never thought she'd go through with it. She had no choice," I said, feeling a cold sense of satisfaction. It was either this or complete social annihilation. We read through the comments. Her followers were mostly confused. "What is this about, Tiff?" one wrote. "Is everything okay?" another asked. A few were supportive, praising her vulnerability, but the narrative was shattered. The goddess had fallen from her pedestal. Her brand, built on a fantasy of effortless wealth, was now tainted with the reality of financial struggle and a weird, public apology. She had been exposed, not by a loud accusation, but by the quiet weight of the truth. The next morning, as we were on our way to breakfast, we saw them leaving. Their bags were packed and waiting by the reception desk. They were checking out, days before their scheduled departure. They didn't see us. Tiffany had on huge sunglasses and a wide-brimmed hat, her face hidden. Mark just looked tired. They got into a golf cart and were driven towards the seaplane dock without a backward glance. They were running away. They couldn't stand to be in the same square mile as us, the quiet, smiling women who had dismantled their entire world without raising our voices. We sat down for breakfast and ordered mimosas. "To serenity and sisterhood," Susan said, raising her glass. "And to consequences," I added, clinking my glass against hers. We spent the rest of our trip enjoying the paradise they had tried to claim as their own. We had spa treatments. We read by the pool. We took a boat out to a coral reef and went snorkeling. We did all the things that a real vacation is about. We relaxed. We laughed. We healed. It was my money and my friends' money, honestly earned and freely spent. And it felt 1,000 times more luxurious than their stolen fantasy ever could. The journey home was peaceful. The mission was accomplished. But I knew the war was not over. The relationship with my son was in tatters. The confrontation at the resort was just the beginning of a long, painful process of rebuilding, if that was even possible. When I got home, the first call I made was to my financial advisor. I explained the situation, without going into the dramatic details. I told him I needed to set up a new trust for my grandchild, one that I was the sole trustee of. Mark would have no access. Tiffany would have no access. The money would be protected, truly protected this time, by walls of legal steel that they could never breach. It was a sad necessity, but a vital one. I had learned my lesson. Trust, once broken so completely, could not be easily patched up. Mark called me a few days later. He sounded small and lost. "Mom," he said, his voice quiet. "Can we talk?" I agreed, but I told him to come to my house. Alone. I did not want Tiffany in my home. He arrived looking like he hadn't slept in a week. He sat on the edge of the sofa, the same sofa where he used to build forts as a little boy. He couldn't meet my eyes. "I am so sorry," he began. "I know that's not enough. I don't know what I was thinking. I love her. And I want to make her happy. And does making her happy mean letting her steal from your own child?" I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. "Does it mean lying to your mother? Does it mean disrespecting your father's memory?" He flinched at every question. "No," he whispered. "It all just happens so fast. She gets these ideas in her head, and they sound so wonderful, so exciting. And I get caught up in it. I forget to think." "You need to start thinking, Mark," I said, my voice firm but not unkind. "You are going to be a father. You have a responsibility to that child that is greater than your responsibility to make Tiffany happy. You need to learn to say no. You need to learn to be a partner, not a doormat." He started to cry then, quiet, hiccuping sobs.
"I know," he said.
"I've ruined everything. You must hate me." I looked at my son, my only child, and my heart ached. I didn't hate him. I was profoundly, deeply disappointed in him. But I didn't hate him. "I don't hate you, Mark," I said. "But I don't trust you right now. And I don't know how long it will take for that to change. You have a lot of work to do to earn that back." We talked for a long time. I explained the new trust one had set up. He didn't protest. He just nodded, accepting it as another consequence of his actions. He told me that things with Tiffany were tense. She blamed him for caving to me. She blamed me for sabotaging her career. She took no responsibility for her own actions. I wasn't surprised. My sister, Jane, called me after she heard a sanitized version of the story from Mark. "Sarah, that was a bit extreme, wasn't it?" she asked, her voice laced with gentle disapproval. "Flying all the way there, confronting them in public. Couldn't you have just handled it privately?" "I tried handling it privately, Jane," I replied, my patience thin. He lied to my face.
"Twice.
They stole $55,000. Was that not a bit extreme? Sometimes, the only way to deal with people who only care about appearances is to make the truth public." She didn't have a response to that. People who haven't dealt with this kind of insidious, manipulative behavior don't understand that normal rules of engagement don't apply. You can't be gentle with a bulldozer. Life has settled into a new, fragile normal. I see Mark, but not as often. Our conversations are stilted, careful. He is trying. He is in therapy, he told me. He is trying to find his backbone. I hope he succeeds, for his child's sake. I have not seen or spoken to Tiffany since the resort. She is blocked on my phone and all my social media. I hear about her through the grapevine. Her influencer career has stalled. Her posts are now about simple living and budget-friendly maternity finds. It seems her followers didn't appreciate the abrupt shift from Maldives luxury to thrift store chic. She is trying to rebrand herself as a humble, down-to-earth mom. But the internet never forgets. My support group and I are closer than ever. Our trip bonded us in a way I never expected. We are no longer just a group of women complaining about our families. We are a team. We are a force. We have a new motto. Don't poke the grandmas. We have plans for another trip next year, somewhere quiet and beautiful, paid for with our own money, on our own terms. My grandchild is due in a few months. I am filled with a fierce, protective love for this baby I haven't even met. I will be a wonderful grandmother. I will shower this child with love and affection. But I will also be its guardian, its protector. I will be the keeper of the fortress. The walls are stronger now, rebuilt with the hard-earned wisdom of betrayal. I no longer try to keep the peace at any cost. I keep the peace by enforcing boundaries of stone. Mark and Tiffany will be in my life because of my grandchild, but they will never again have my trust or my financial support. They learned a hard lesson in that tropical paradise. They learned that I am not just a quiet, gentle mother to be placated and managed. I am my husband's legacy. I am my grandchild's future. And I am not to be underestimated. They wanted a priceless experience. I made sure they got one. They finally learned what it feels like to have their perfect world collapse. And the price was $55,000. Paid in full.